Hi everyone, so this is a video that I have wanted to make for a while about why I left my job as a senior lecturer. I left my job as a senior lecturer last year in December 2023, and I've wanted to make a video, and the only reason why I haven't is because I keep overthinking about how I want the video structured, how I deliver this video, the fact that I want it to look really nice and be structured well and convey my messaging well. But then I realized that the more I do that, the longer that the video will become and the longer it'll take me to actually make this video. So I want this to be a very simplistic video where there's no really high detailed editing on this, but more of a conversation about why I left my job as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice, the learning points from it, and how life has been since leaving my job as a senior lecturer. So first thing I want to start with is the fact that the job I had as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice was a dream job for me. So in 2019, I was looking at specialist jobs as a pharmacist. So I did 2 years as a junior pharmacist working for the NHS in the UK. And that's when you get to the point where you're looking at specializing. I saw a job, it was a split role. So half the time you're a specialist antimicrobial pharmacist in the hospital. Half the time you're a teacher practitioner. So not a senior lecturer, a teacher practitioner in pharmacy practice. And a teacher practitioner role is it's your time split with practice and lecturing. In terms of roles and responsibilities, they're not vastly different between a teacher practitioner and a senior lecturer. I'll speak about my senior lecturer role in a bit. So the teacher practitioner role means that I could start teaching at university. And that was really exciting because I never thought that after 2 years of working in practice, I would be able to lecture pharmacy students. And I always wanted to teach, but I never knew if I was any good when it came to teaching. So I guess this was an indication and this could be a way for me to demonstrate whether or not I'm actually good at teaching. And if I was good at teaching, then maybe this is something that I'd actually do long term. So it was really interesting. It was a very exciting opportunity for me. I really wanted the job. I was very happy when I did get the job. So that was something that I was very happy about. When I started the job, that's when I started the MicroPharm Instagram page and started the YouTube channel, and it was a way for me to demonstrate what I've learnt on the job. So like if I'm learning about sepsis, to teach a sepsis section, then I can create some posts about sepsis, and that way I'm holding myself accountable, so I'm actually doing the work, and then obviously other people are benefiting from the stuff that I learned. So I really started to enjoy teaching, and I also really started to enjoy the stuff that I was sharing on social media. So on both ends, I was really happy, and I was happy with my role in practice as well. So it was a dream time for me, and I was really grateful for the fact that I got that initial position. After a while, I saw a new opening for a role as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice. All that means is you're actually employed by the university and your responsibilities can increase. One of the things that was different was that means that you're employed 2 days a week by the university, whether it's term time or not. So it's a separate contract. And the reason why that was really nice was because I didn't have a full 52-week contract of working at the university. So that meant that when it's non-term time, I actually had to work full-time at the hospital. But it's actually very hard for teacher practitioners that are doing that, because sometimes you may have things to do during non-term time, but then I ended up just doing that in my own time. So that was one thing that I was quite happy about, the fact that I now had a 52-week contract as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice. At this same time, so a few years into my role, MicroPharm starts to grow. and I start to offer study guides, and also I started to offer live sessions where I was delivering live sessions to trainee pharmacists. And I was really enjoying that. And it also meant that now MicroPharm was making an income. So initially, and I've spoken about this before, initially it was really like the whole project was loss making. I was spending a lot of time on MicroPharm, and at the same time I was spending a lot of money on gear. So all the camera equipment and the mics and everything in relation to editing as well. So I even outsourced some of the editing. I was paying a lot of money, but I was not getting any money back. But obviously I knew it was a long-term investment. But now I'm actually seeing the fruits of that because I'm actually generating some income from these teaching sessions. And then I started to see the fact that things were really getting noticed by sort of other organizations. So that's when YouTube reached out to me for the YouTube Health Conference. So I realized that this can be quite big. I was invited to the Google headquarters, and I've got a separate video for that. And it was essentially bringing healthcare content creators together to say, let's make better content online to battle medical misinformation. We could do a great job with producing reliable content online. So MicroPharm started to grow. But at the same time, what starts to happen is I'm working full time, and MicroPharm was taking approximately 30 hours a week of my time outside of work. So I was really struggling. I was working about 70 hours a week. And that's when I realized that this is unhealthy long term. So I'm working in practice 3 days a week. I'm working at the university 2 days a week. And I'm doing 30 hours on top of that in terms of content creation and also delivering sessions for trainee pharmacists. And I was mindful of the fact that I had to leave one of my jobs. I had to either leave practice or I had to leave lecturing. But I didn't know which one I should leave. Around the same time, I got the opportunity to reduce some of my work hours within the NHS at the hospital, so I could do a 2-day-a-week job. So I was 2 days a week at the hospital, 2 days a week at the university, and still about 30 to 35 hours a week with MicroPharm, doing my own thing for the business. So it's still, although it was better in terms of work-life balance, it was still in the unhealthy range in terms of the time I was spending. At the same time, during COVID, I got married, and then obviously it's like work-life balance was just. It was not a thing. To some extent, it's still not a thing, but it's definitely a lot better now. So around this time, I'm considering the fact that I need to leave something, and that was the middle of last year. So I started to think about what that could be, and whether or not it should be my role in practice or whether or not it should be my role at the university. One thing that helped that decision was the fact that my role at the university was largely focused on teaching, and my role with MicroPharm was largely focused on teaching. My role in practice was the only thing that was fairly different. So I had an inkling that my role in university is the one that I should be leaving. Around the same time, my dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. It was the early stages of Parkinson's disease, but it made us think about the fact that we should be doing more as a family. And I did speak about that with the team at the university to say, my dad's got Parkinson's disease now. We want to do, I'm really struggling with everything. So I think, look, people's parents have health conditions that they're struggling with all the time, right? My problems are not unique. The problems that are unique to me is the fact that I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week and I have to leave something. And that's why I was thinking about leaving the university. The natural question in that situation is, why not just stop doing the content that you're doing for MicroPharm? And that means that you're working a 9 to 5 like everyone else, but then you've got time to spend with your family. So that I think there was a few things At the time, it was one of the most difficult decisions I had to make, and at the time, it's solely came down to a few things. One was flexibility. So the fact that I was generating an income from MicroPharm, but that income from MicroPharm means every time I'm doing things with regards to MicroPharm, if I needed flexibility when it comes to doing things with my family, I had that option there. So one of the things that we decided to do was we decided to go for a pilgrimage at that time, which was called Umrah. But I had that flexibility if I'm working for myself. Whereas if you're working at the university, you have to do that in accordance with term timetables. So that flexibility that you have as a business owner is obviously unmatched. And it means that I could naturally just spend more time at home and more time with the family. The other thing is impact. So the one big consideration for me when it comes to my job is the impact that I'm having with my job. So if the option for me to stay in that role means I will be doing a similar role for the next 30 or 40 years of my life, that for me, it's a worrying thought. I know it's not the same for everyone, but I don't want to be doing a similar sort of role for the next 30 or 40 years. I want that. I want to be having I want that, like, if there was a graph with my impact, the impact that I'm having, I want that to be growing exponentially. I want to be that impact that I'm having to be greater every year. And that's what I was seeing with the stuff that I was doing with MicroPharm. I was seeing the fact that some of these videos were reaching millions of people. So I'm able to, like, at the time, my viewership for the year, and this is solely educational content, was about 10 million views for the year. So the impact that you have when it comes to teaching online, for me, was unmatched. And that's one of the main reasons why I said, whatever I'm doing with MicroPharm for me, was far more important than what I was doing teaching at the university from an impact level and from the number of people that I was teaching. And one of the most important things was most of my viewers were pharmacy students as well. So it's not like this is a completely new audience. I am teaching those same pharmacy students online compared to the ones that I'm teaching in the classroom. So if I carried on, I would still be teaching this audience of people. So it would just mean that I'm doing it at a much greater scale. So that's the reason why I was thinking, even if I left, I would still be teaching pharmacy students. I will still be teaching trainee pharmacists and healthcare professionals. So that was when, around December, well, obviously I had to make that decision a few months prior to that. Around December, I left my role as a senior lecturer in pharmacy practice. It was the most difficult career decision I've ever had to make. And one of the fears that I had was the fact that, what if I'll never get this job back. So what if I leave and I regret it? What if I leave and regret it and then I just can't get that job back? So that is a huge fear, and that's probably a fear for a lot of people, and why a lot of people stick to their career for a lot longer than they may have wanted to. Maybe they wanted to explore something else, but they're like, I may never get this job back. So that was a huge fear. And one thing that I would say 11 months from that decision was I've never looked back. And I'm really grateful for that, alhamdulillah. So I've never felt like I've been in a position where I've said, damn, I should have not done that. I think the journey since then has been a journey where I've explored and done so many things in that space of time. And one of the things about being in full-time work whilst doing something like MicroPharm is sometimes those the work that you have and the time that you're spending at work can hinder that progress because you just physically don't have the time or energy to do anything outside of that space. But I'm truly grateful for the things that I learnt in my job as a senior lecturer. I'm still a visiting senior lecturer for the same university. A lot of the marking that I do is for the postgrad diploma, the clinical pharmacy diploma. Those in the profession will have a better understanding of that. And I still work 2 days a week for the NHS. So one of my arguments for that was to stay in practice. And it's something that I'm constantly battling with because I really want to stay in practice. But at the same time, it's still really tough. I think the amount of time that I'm spending on MicroPharm has exponentially increased. We're now sitting at the region of 50 to 60 hours per week just on MicroPharm stuff and 15 hours a week at the hospital. The specialty that I'm working with in the hospital is a specialty called interstitial lung disease. So part of me thinks that the stuff that I'm doing whilst at the hospital is vastly different to the stuff that I'm teaching. So I don't think I feel like I'm in a position where if I left my role within the NHS, then that would really impact my teaching abilities, because a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching in terms of material, I have to actually still do the research outside of work because it's not stuff that I approach at work. The stuff that I learn about at work is so niche and so highly specialist. It's such a highly specialized area, that I just don't even teach it to trainee pharmacists. It's beyond the scope of their curriculum and framework for the exam. But this is where I am now, still working 2 days a week, and I'd probably continue like this for some time. But it has been like a very interesting journey, a very exciting journey, because I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd be working 2 days a week because of the business. But I try to keep things, and I'll probably make a separate video for this, but I try to keep things really lean in terms of my spending. So every time I'm in London, I'm not renting a place in London. Every time I'm in London, I'm staying with family. So that's when I'm using the office or going for events. Most of the time, I'm still here in Leicester. I've always lived in Leicester. But I would love to live in London, but it makes no financial sense for me. I think my main priority is the business and to reinvest everything into the business for now. And I think that makes a good separate video. So the money that I generate from my 2 days a week with the NHS is what I try to use for my household expenses, but I try to keep that as lean as possible. So no extravagance. Or minimal extravagance, so that I can continue to focus on the growth of the business. And then hopefully, inshallah, I'll get in a position where I can then start to focus on pursuing something where I can focus on myself. But the main priority right now, for at least the next 4 to 5 years, is the reinvesting what we earn from MicroPharm back into MicroPharm. But a very different type of video. Hopefully you found this video useful. And if you did, let me know, and let me know what else you would want me to speak about in relation to this journey. And subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.